Hey guys, welcome back to a brand new video. In today's video, I'll be taking the political compass test, and I will be posting it to YouTube for the first time in almost a year. I usually take the political compass test every few months, but I don't always take them out loud. But we'll be doing that today because I think it's interesting to see where I stand, so you guys can know, and you guys can take the test as well if you would like. Actually, I think before we get into it, I'll say three things. Number one, if you want to take this test, I'll put a link in the description, or you can just look up political compass test. It's the first thing that comes up. It's quite easy to find. Number two, this test is not guaranteed to be accurate. I think it's actually quite biased. It's not the perfect test, but it's interesting. It's probably the best known test for people who want to figure out their political views. You can also take the I Side With test, which is my personal favorite, but this test is definitely the most famous, and it'll get the most views. And number three is that, if you're here to skip to the end or just watch the video and just criticize me for having political views and say that I can't be unbiased because I have political views, then A, get a life. B, this video isn't for you, and if you're here to do that, then please don't, because your comments will do nothing other than be counterproductive. So yeah, but for those of you who want to hear about my political views and want to learn more about this channel and me and what I think, and just, I guess, have a reasonable discussion, we can do that. So, yeah, we're going to start here with the first question, which I hate personally, but it's, if economic globalization is inevitable, it should primarily serve humanity rather than the interests of transnational corporations. This question is loaded because it's under the assumption that it's inevitable, which isn't necessarily. And secondly, it also says that it should primarily serve humanity rather than the interests of transnational corporations. I get that, but if you're saying no, it should benefit corporations, then you either have some really flawed libertarian-esque logic or you're just a shill for corporations. So I'm going to say I strongly believe that it should benefit humanity, but again, loaded question. Always support my country, whether it's right or wrong. I disagree with this, but not strongly disagree, because I am proud, to be American. Obviously, with everything that's gone on with these terrible things that have happened as of late, it's, really sad, but it doesn't change my love for my country. We have a lot of work to do, but it doesn't change how much I love this country, and I love it so much that I want to put in that work, right? If I didn't love America, I wouldn't care. I wouldn't want to put in work to try to fix it and try to build it up, but I do love it, and I'm proud to support my country, but if it is wrong, I'll call it out, but usually I'm going to stand firm behind my country. This I also disagree with. I think people who are there's a fine line between being proud or patriotic, right? But there's also you can also you can also just be super if you think that your country, your place of birth, your origin or whatever is better than others, and you think that you being from I don't know, the Czech Republic makes you better than someone who's from Slovakia or whatever, right? Totally random examples, but if you say these things, then yeah, that's taking it too far. But I think it is not foolish to be proud of your country of birth. Are races superior qualities compared to other races? Strongly disagree. This is just a question, it's literally just racism. I'm not racist, so strongly disagree. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. This is close. If there was a mixed bag option, I'd certainly pick that. I'll say disagree because I think philosophically the answer is no, but often in geopolitics the answer has to be yes, unfortunately, like in World War II. The United States, the French, the British did not really like the Soviets, but they had to ally with them because the Germans invaded the Soviets. Yeah. Now, next up, we have military action that defines international law and is justified. So this is tough. I'm usually very pro-international law, especially when it comes to treatment of prisoners of war and what a war crime is, because obviously war crimes are unnecessary, they're bad, and they're just awful for everyone involved. So I'm usually very pro-international law. However, if my country were to find a loophole that would need to be exploited in order for there to be a victory that would long-term benefit the world, I would say yes, it is justified, but that's a loophole. It's not common, so I'd say it sometimes is, but I don't strongly agree. It's not always, and again, it's one of the rarer occasions you're going to get. There's now a worrying fusion of information and entertainment. I agree with this. I just say strongly agree, because I think there is, a lot of that, especially on both sides, but, it's been happening for a while, I guess. 2 of 6, we're now the economy, we're talking attitudes here, not the FTSE index. Okay, people are ultimately divided more by class than by nationality. I agree with this, and I actually used to hold a different view. Actually, I'll say strongly agree. I used to hold a different view, right? I used to be I used to really think that people were more divided by nationality than by class, but I think that especially in a country like America, if you're part of a marginalized group, you'll still face obstacles that people, like, let's say, for example, the average black person in America is going to face more discrimination than the average white person. That is a fact. It's objective. But, those are obstacles. There's a privilege that exists for white people, but it doesn't mean that every white person's life is automatically better than every black person's life, right? Like, I'd rather be an affluent black person than a poor white person. And there might be challenges that an affluent black person would face that a poor white person would not face, but it doesn't outweigh the other aspects of life. So I'd say that people are more divided by class than by nationality. Controlling inflation is more important than controlling unemployment. I'm going to say disagree. I mean, they're correlated, really, because what happens is when workers leave their job because of the pandemic, they don't want to go to work or they go on strike or whatever, to still make money, companies will raise prices. That causes inflation, so they're tied to each other. But I would say that unemployment is slightly more important. But, when unemployment's down, inflation's usually down too. Because corporations cannot be trusted to voluntarily protect the environment, they require regulation. I'm going to say I agree with this. It's between that and strongly agree, but I think I'll lean towards agree here because I think too much regulation can be a bad thing too, because the government's also not great. Because, if we elected a president or a Congress that was bad in terms of climate change, that could also be detrimental. So I'll say agree instead of strongly agree. From each according to ability to each according to his need is a fundamentally good idea. I'm going to say agree, but this is a really, really vague question. I think it's just, it's just attitudes here, right? But I don't, it's vague, really depends on the situation. The free of the market, the freer people, I disagree. If you have a market that doesn't regulate things, that doesn't result in things being appropriate for consumption or for people to buy, that's bad. So I would say that a free market is generally good. I'm a capitalist. I support regulations, though, and I think that ultimately results in a very free market, right? Because things need to happen, but it doesn't need to, there's a fine line between socialism and regulated capitalism. It's a sad reflection on our society that something as basic as drinking water is now a bottled branded consumer product. I don't get this question, right? Should water be accessible and free to everyone? Yeah. Can we do anything about it? No. And another aspect of this question is that, would we really have, because corporations are always going to want to make money, right? The water that you drink from, whether it's Fiji, Dasani, Crystal Geyser, whatever, I don't drink bottled water. I usually will just drink water out of a reusable water bottle. But, if you are drinking water out of a plastic water bottle, the reason you have that water is because the corporation is making money, and they're delivering that to you in return for money. Would we really have access to it? Because you can walk down the street and just buy water wherever you're at, right? Would we really have access to that if there weren't corporations who were doing it in return for money? No, we wouldn't, because there has to be an incentive. And it's a sad thing to say, so I guess it is a sad reflection, but it's a necessary evil that would long term be great to get rid of, but no. I'll disagree with that. This question is kind of a meme. Land should be a commodity to be bought and sold. I disagree with this. Land should be bought and sold, but the market in which we buy land should be regulated more. Example A, 2008 financial crash. The housing bubble burst, and we need to do more as a country to prevent that from happening again. It is regrettable that many personal fortunes are made by people who simply manipulate money and contribute nothing to society. Really weird question. Personally, it's regrettable. Yeah. Does it mean that my political view should be based on it? No, I don't think that it's regrettable people make money one way or another. It's annoying that money is a game of luck, right? Mark Zuckerberg, for example, isn't a genius, right? He is a random kid who had a cool idea that he had the 1 in a billion chance of, succeeding, right? There are plenty of other kids or, young adults who have these great ideas, like Mark Zuckerberg, like Elon Musk, like Bill Gates or whatever, right? And they have these ideas, and they don't work out even if they're fundamentally better ideas than the, famous people that we know now. So, I'm gonna say that if you, if you're manipulating money and you're making, making bank off of that, right, and you're not contributing to society, sure, you're not doing anything, but it's not, regrettable. I'm not gonna, cry about it, right? There are better things to be doing than that. So I'll say disagree. Protectionism is necessary in trade. This is a really weird question because it doesn't, like, it sometimes is really vague. So I'll say agree because it is sometimes necessary, but not always and not majority of the time. The only social responsibility of a company should be to deliver a profit to its shareholders. Social is very subjective, but I'm going to say disagree because I think, there should be companies, like, I will respect a company's right to, like, prioritize their shareholders and to prioritize profit because they're going to do that no matter what. Trying to change that is unrealistic and idealistic, quite frankly. But on the other hand, I do think that the company has a social responsibility to educate the public, to not do stupid things, to not do things that are detrimental to the environment, that are detrimental to the people, detrimental to the country. And so as a result of that, I think disagree. The rich are too highly taxed. Strongly disagree. Actually, the rich the rich are taxed quite much. It's not enough, but I would say the rich aren't the main problem. It's corporations. Corporations, like Amazon, paid literally $0 in tax last year. So I think it's corporations more than the rich that are not taxed highly enough. Those with the ability to pay should have access to higher standards of medical care. I'm going to say I agree with this. And so I've had this debate with a bunch of leftists on the internet, right? And I've been told that I'm not, like, because I've said I'm a Democrat or that I'm a moderate liberal, right? And I've been told that I'm, not liberal because I don't support a universal healthcare system in which everyone is under the same provider, right? But it's not the government's responsibility to tell you what healthcare you can receive. It's actually a burden if you're trying to, like, I don't get what the point of trying to create healthcare for everyone in like, say, America, if we had universal healthcare, like Canada or Denmark or Sweden, for example, did, right? It would be a burden to try to cover 330 million people via healthcare. It's a good idea, but why do that when half the country would just rather stick with their private healthcare insurance, right? Like, it's usually higher quality than a public option. Like, I'm totally for a public option. It should exist. We should have Medicare for all who want it. Like, there should be a safety net there. But if you are rich and you want to pay for higher standards of medical care to stimulate the economy, to put money into that market to get better doctors and whatnot, then yes, you should have the option to do that because it's the government's job to not regulate your body and your money in that regard. So I am firmly in support of a public option, but I would not want to get rid of a private option either because I think that would lead to a lot of unintended consequences and it's a knee-jerk reaction to the problem we face. Government should penalize businesses that mislead the public. Yeah, I'm going to say actually strongly agree with that. I think the public being misled is a very dangerous thing, and it can result in a lot of bad things. So I'm going to say, yeah, we should crack down on that. A genuine free market requires restrictions on the ability of predator multinationals to create monopolies. Agree, monopolies are very bad for the free market, and they're very bad for the economy, too. So I'm going to say agree with that. All right, social values. Hot topic. Abortion when the woman's life is not threatened should always be illegal. The fundamental thing I keep coming back to when I think of abortion is a few things. So first of all, it is not our right to regulate what a woman can and cannot do with her body. It is an intrusion on her privacy and on her right to bodily autonomy. And secondly, I don't think that the unborn have an inherent right to life because they haven't been born yet. So for the same reason that an unborn baby is pregnant in a woman's stomach, and I think a woman should have the choice to do what she wants with it, I wouldn't also support forced birth, because really pro-life is essentially just an extension of forced birth. Like, I wouldn't force a woman to have because the net of a woman getting pregnant, having an abortion, having no baby, is the same as the net of woman never having an abortion, never having sexual intercourse, and never getting pregnant, right? Like, there is the net of that on society is the exact same thing. And any intrusion of the government onto her body creates a very slippery slope, which is why I'm not a fan of this Roe v. Wade ruling. I also just want to briefly say that, there was a court case in the 70s, and, this is my favorite pro-choice argument that I've used many times throughout my life, and it's bailed me out. So if you're a fellow pro-choicer, listen up. If you are actually, let's go back to a court case in 1970s Texas. I don't remember the name. I'm not going to give you all the details, but a man sued his cousin because this cousin had extra kidneys, and the man said, "I'm going to die if you don't give me the kidneys," and the cousin, or give me a kidney, and the cousin would not give him the kidney. He said, "Nope, you have no right to dictate my body. I'm not going to give you a kidney. Sorry," right? And so was it kind of a weird move? Yeah, I don't know if the man actually died or what happened after, but the court ruled that the man could not force his cousin to give him his kidney. He could not violate his bodily autonomy to save his life. And so even if a life isn't, like, even if you think that life begins at conception, which it doesn't, by the way, but even if you think that, the woman's right to bodily autonomy trumps that, and at the end of the day, just because you have strong opinions doesn't mean that you should get to choose what a woman does with her body. So I'm pro-choice. I respect people who are pro-life, but I am not going to tolerate the, constant slander of pro-choicers. So yeah, I'm pro-choice. Anyways, all authority should be questioned. I agree with this. An eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. Not sure about that. I'll say disagree, but it's weird because this is a very vague question. So I'll say disagree, but tit for tat can sometimes be okay. Not always, though. Taxpayers should not be expected to prop up any theaters or museums that cannot survive enough commercial basics. Strongly agree with this. Schools should not make classroom attendance compulsory. I disagree with this. I think that classroom is subjective. I'm not sure if they mean right, does homeschooling count? Does online learning at other schools count? I don't know what that means, but I think that students should be mandated to have education, but I'm not entirely sure what they mean by classroom here. So I'll say I think that schools should make classroom attendance compulsory, but classroom is subjective here. People have their rights, but it's better for us that different sorts of people keep to their own kind. Strongly disagree. That's a really weird question. If you think this, you are weird. Good parents sometimes have spanked their children. Strongly disagree. This is detrimental psychological effects to children. It's very, very bad for the relationship between their children and their parents, and it is a bad way of teaching kids a lesson. I have not been spanked as a child. I am very lucky that my parents don't spank me. And if parents spank their kids, it's bad parenting, quite frankly. And no, good parents don't spank their children, in all honesty. It's natural for children to keep secrets from their parents. I strongly agree with this. Children are always going to keep secrets from their parents. They're not going to tell them everything. Possessing marijuana for personal use should not be a criminal offense. I agree with this. It is your body. If you want to mess with it, your choice. The prime function of schooling should be to equip the future generation to find jobs. Disagree, although not strongly disagree, because I think finding jobs is very important. People with serious inheritable disabilities should not be allowed to reproduce. Strongly disagree. Again, it's your body. If you choose to reproduce, it is your choice. Government should have no say in that, because that would be very slippery slope, very weird. The most important thing for children to learn is to accept discipline. Strongly disagree. The most important thing for children to learn is compassion and respect. And also hard work is a close second. There are no savage and civilized people. There are only different cultures. This is weird. I'll say disagree. So because I think that culture is subjective here, right? Like if you're comparing cultures of two countries, I think that they are different but equal, right? But if you're comparing cultures of things like organizations or militaries, right? I believe that a culture like the Taliban or Juche, right? Extremist ideologies like that could be classified as cultures are very bad. So I'll say disagree, but again, it's technical. It depends on what you define as culture. Those who are able to work and refuse the opportunity should not expect society's support. Very weird question. I'll say agree, but I don't know what this means. But if you can work and do not work, you should not respect society's support. But at the same time, very technical here. It depends on the situation. When you're in trouble, it's better not to think, but to keep up with more cheerful things. I agree. This is what I do. It's maybe not the best strategy, but I do it anyways, and it usually works for me. First-generation immigrants can never be fully integrated within their new country. I'm going to say I agree with this, but this is a bad faith question, because the people who say this out loud are usually obnoxious, and they are usually just using it to be racist. So I'm not a fan of saying this. I wouldn't really say this out loud. But if you move here from another country, right? You can't be fully integrated. You just can't. It's not a bad thing. It's not your fault. Diversity of cultures is a good thing, by the way. It's just it's just the way it is. So I guess I'll say agree. What's good for most successful corporations is almost ultimately good for all of us. Disagree with that for obvious reasons. No broadcasting institution, however, independent content should receive public funding. I actually agree with this, because independent is very subjective, and we do not know what the government would want to be funding, and I think it's just a waste of taxpayer dollars. So I like NPR, but at the same time, I think they can find their own money. All right, page 4 out of 6, we're going to have to grind through these next few pages. Our civil liberties are being excessively curbed in the name of counterterrorism. I disagree with this, although, again, it's very subjective. Civil liberties is subjective, and your civil liberties is subjective, because I might be facing a different experience than someone else. A significant, this is my least favorite question. A significant advantage of a one-party state is that it avoids all the arguments that delay progress in a democratic political system. I agree. That being said, I'm not in support of a one-party state, but this is an advantage. It's probably the only advantage. Although the electronic age makes official surveillance easier, only wrongdoers need to be worried. Disagree, because you can still get, your information, so you can still get hacked. You can still even get in trouble for things you didn't do online. So I think everyone needs to be worried. The death penalty should be an option for the most serious of crimes. I disagree with this. The death penalty is immoral. Two wrongs do not make a right. I would rather just go to jail for the entire life than a death penalty, because killing people is just really weird to me. To me doesn't make sense, because I think that murder is right. War is, I think, the only exception here, right? But murder when you don't need to murder someone is just really, really weird to me. In a civilized society, one must always have people above to be obeyed and people below to be commanded. Disagree. Civilized is subjective. Abstract art doesn't represent anything, shouldn't be considered art at all. This is my hot take. I'm going to say agree with this. I do not like abstract art. I think it's cool to look at, but I don't think it's really art, and I don't really think it represents anything. So I'll say that since art is subjective, that's why I don't strongly agree. But at the same time, abstract art gets it's usually gets kind of taken too far, right? If someone hands me a blank piece of paper and says it's abstract art, then no, that's not how it works, right? So and this is personal preferences. This isn't how I'd run a government. So I'm gonna say that abstract art for me is not art. I don't consider it art, but that's just my definition. So if you disagree, it's chill, because I don't really think that art's I don't usually get worked up by anything in art. It's certainly on the bottom of that list. In a criminal justice, punishment should be more important than rehabilitation sometimes, so I'll say disagree, because sometimes it should not be. It's a waste of time to try to rehabilitate some criminals. I agree with this. Not all criminals can be rehabilitated. Some are just lost causes. The business person, the manufacturer, more important than the writer and the artist. Disagree, because not always. It can be true half of the time, maybe around that, but not always true. Mothers may have careers, but their first duty is to be homemakers. Yeah, I'm going to say disagree. It's not my job to determine what a mother would do, as her first duty or whatever, because I think that my definition of parenting is going to be different from everyone else's, and I respect that. Multinational companies are unethically exploiting the plant genetic resources of developing countries. Strongly agree, and it's very, very sad to see what's happening in Africa and parts of Asia. Making peace with the establishment is an important aspect of maturity. I agree, but it's not always good, but it is an important aspect of maturity that needs to happen at some point. Page 5 of 6. Alright, let's see. Astrology accurately explains many things. I don't know how many astrology girls watch my YouTube channel. I know many in real life. I don't know how many watch this channel, though. So I'm going to say, I'm sorry, guys, but no, it does not. I think Greta Thunberg and Kyle Rittenhouse were on the exact same day, and they're polar opposites. So, yeah, you cannot be moral without being religious. Strongly disagree with this. I am religious personally. I try to be as moral as I can, but at the same time, I think you can be very moral without being religious. Charity is better than Social Security as means of helping the genuinely disadvantaged. I'm going to say agree with this, but at the same time, Social Security is still good, and I think that, right, if you're having a redistribution of wealth and you're just money is better dealt with by the government than individually, so I think that charity itself is good, but you can't rely on people to donate to charity when it's not what most people do anyways. So yeah, some people are naturally unlucky. I agree with this, although I think it all evens out at the end. How, I do not know, but I feel like it does for some reason in my gut, kind of. It's important that my child's school instills religious values. I disagree. I don't know where I'd want to send them, because I don't have kids, right? I'm not even married or anything, so I'm going to say I don't know yet, but for now, I don't really care about religious values. I might teach my kid religious values because I'm religious, but I don't think the school is super important. Alright, this is a look at sex. If you don't want to hear about it, you can skip through, but I won't get too into it, obviously. Sex outside of marriage is usually immoral. I'm going to say disagree with this. Sex outside marriage is no business to the state. It happens very commonly. It's normal, I guess you could say. I should actually say strongly disagree. So, yeah, if you want to abstain till marriage, you can do that, but most people won't do that, and it's not immoral, because it's just a normal activity most people do. A same-sex couple in a stable, loving relationship should not be excluded from the possibility of child adoption. I'm going to say that I strongly agree with this. It should not be excluded from the possibility, because same-sex couples are just as good at raising children as mixed-sex couples. A gay couple can be equally loving and nurturing as a straight couple, and they can be better in some cases as well, right? Sexuality and the gender of the parents, to me, is irrelevant, and the people who are, against gay people getting married or adopting kids, I think, just need to stay in their own lane, and they need to sit down, because it's not their business. Depicting I'm not going to read it out loud because I don't want to get demonetized, but you can read it for yourself. Depicting consenting adults should be legal for the adult population. I'm going to say I agree with this. It should be regulated, but banning it would do nothing, really. What goes on in the private bedroom between consenting adults is no business of the state. I'm going to say that I agree with this. Yeah, I mean, since consenting, I'll say strongly agree, actually. No one can feel naturally homosexual. Strongly disagree. As we know, there is a substantial amount of people who actually are gay, and it's not much to the dismay of what many people think. There's not a mass conspiracy to indoctrinate the kids and make them gay. It's just some people are gay, some people are straight. That's how it works. These days, openness about sex has gone too far. This is a weird question because it depends where you are. If you are in a region or location where it's not talked about enough, that's different than if it's talked about too much. So I'm going to say disagree, or actually maybe I'll say agree, because I think my experience it sometimes has gone too far, but I don't really know. I think it's really, really close, and I think it's maybe just about right, but overall I don't know. So I'll say, agree, but it's if there's neutral, I'd do that. So let's see where I stand now on the political compass. I think I'm going to be in the green quadrant, but we're about to see. So yeah, I'm in the green quadrant right here, so I'm pretty close to the center, right? I saw a friend who took it right, ended up right here. But yeah, let's see who I'm closest to. Let's see these people. Countries. So this is why I hate this, by the way, because North Korea is not a left-wing country. It's actually I consider North Korea to be communism is left-wing, but I think it's also, you can make its argument it's nationalistic state. So I'll say North Korea could be here, but it's it's just more extreme than it is left-wing. China should be over here, in my opinion. Saudi Arabia. Singapore is not to the right of Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is a much more restrictive and right-wing country than Singapore is. Yeah, Uruguay and Switzerland are maybe, they're more in the middle, I'd say. Yeah, okay. So then you've got my political compass. I'm not really close to anyone out here, but if we do world leaders, you can't find it. But anyways, the point being, they used to have a world leader section where they'd have Mandela and Gandhi and Stalin and stuff like that, and I think closest to Gandhi, but I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, I'm right here, kind of I'm pretty centrist, but I'm libertarian left, so that's my political compass. I know I talk really fast in this video because I want to get through. I didn't want to talk really slow like I do during podcasts or whatever, but yeah, that's my political compass. Just gonna wrap it up here. Feel free to tag me on Twitter, show me yours, show me where you stand. Let's see if I can find any of my twins on Twitter. But yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.